Thank you for joining us, and many thanks to our guests for staying up late to be with us. I am Sergy Odiduro. I'm the president of the Louisiana SPJ Chapter. I am a freelancer. At the moment, I'm covering modern Miami art in modern art in Miami. Before we start our discussion, there's some housekeeping items. Please use the chat feature to let us know where you're from. The international community of the Society of Professional Journalists is dedicated to promoting press freedom globally and helping American journalists better understand the close links between global and local events. We also want to bring together journalists from around the world to better understand the conditions and issues facing us all. We also look at how journalism can affect how we look at the world and how the world looks at us. We hope you take from today's session information that will inspire you in your work and broaden your horizons. The format is simple. The guest and I will have a conversation. If along the way you have a question, please use the Q&A function. And please, for the sake of our limited time, keep your questions brief. The co-chair of the international community, Dan Kabuski, and I will keep an eye on that window. The talk is being recorded and will be placed in our YouTube channel. Dan is putting the URL for that in the chat window now. Dan will also be keeping an eye on the chat window in case you have any questions about the SPJ or the international community. Also, during the session, Dan will be supplying some additional links about the issue we will be discussing. And with that, let's get to the conversation. Haiti is a country physically close to the United States that few Americans can identify on a map. Unfortunately, coverage of Haiti, like that of so many developing countries, is relegated to the coups, disasters, or riots category of international reporting. Few Americans know the history of this country that shares an island with the Dominican Republic. Few know of the historic ties with the United States, not all of them good for the Haitian people. And few know of the struggles taking place in Haiti to rebuild after devastating earthquakes and hurricanes and political upheavals. We are truly fortunate to have someone who has looked at how Haiti has been covered, or maybe not has been covered, and how that coverage has affected how the American people and its representative in government view Haiti. Farah Lawyer joins us. She is a communication strategist, a social entrepreneur, and community organizer. She's a founding member and chairperson of the Association of Miramar Haitian-American residents and business owners in Southern Florida. She has been interviewed by local, mainstream, and international media outlets, including the Associated Press, CBS, CNN, Al Jazeera, and Société Radio Canada. In 2014, Farah received the Beacon of Hope and Achievement Award from the Consulate General of the Republic of Haiti in Miami for her contribution to media excellence in the Haitian diaspora, her accomplishments, and extraordinary work. I also call her a friend. We have collaborated together and previously in a working relationship. So let's get to it. Farah, what is the one thing that stands out to you when it comes to coverage about Haiti, when it comes from the American media standpoint?
Haiti, the poorest country of the hemisphere. I hear that so many times, and sometimes feel like it is a repetition. It is become a tag for Haiti, and I feel that there's a lot of also lack of understanding of the issue. There's also a lack of investigation, and there's also, I would feel, from a Haitian perspective, I feel like they undermine Haitian voices.
Can you tell me a little bit about what brought you to the United States? And it's interesting, I just learned this about you because there's so many different reasons why Haitians immigrate to the United States. And I guess the overall narrative in the media is that Haitians are poor, Haitians are coming for a better life. And I was kind of surprised to learn what your specific circumstances was. Can you tell me a little bit about your background in media and how did you get to the United States today?
Well, I started my career at a very young age. I was 17 when I started my career in at Radio Vision 2000, then Telemax, and later on I also worked for Radio Signal FM and Radio Planet Creole. At some point in my young age, my 20s, I was one of the most popular TV hosts, and so I can say that I was among the privileged one. And despite that, I felt at some point that Haiti was too small for my dreams. I wanted to discover the world. I was tired of the political instability, the poverty, the injustice, and it was around 2003. So at that time, I was so upset and outraged of the situation of the country. And even I was in a very, despite my social status, I wanted to leave the country. I wanted to discover the world. I wanted to know if what we live in Haiti, is it normal? If it everywhere is the same thing. And definitely, you know how the American culture is very in deep in many countries around the world, including Haiti, by through television, music videos, music. So we grew up, looking at America as the great country, the country of opportunities, and then and that was the mindset. And at that time, also many people of my generation and older generation were leaving Haiti, and then and this is how the idea of moving. And but I have to specify that I didn't grow up thinking that I would leave the country. I never think that. But at some point in my early 20s, and I realized that I need to know why. So basically, my quest for questions, my quest for answers, kind of pushed me out of this of Haiti, and that's what me in United States.
It's interesting that you said that you had no intention of actually leaving Haiti. My family had this similar circumstances. My mom immigrated to New York in the 1970s. Prior to that, she tells me all the time she had no intention of coming to the United States. My parents were doing well in Haiti, and she came due to the political turmoil. At the time, Papa Doc threw her in jail. They accused her of communism. She spent 6 months in prison, and it was only because of that that is what spiraled her intentions to come to the United States. So she says that all the time. That she was comfortable in Haiti. At the time, she had no intention of coming here, but because of the circumstances, that's what led her to be here. So it's interesting that you mentioned that as well, because I think it kind of those two circumstances kind of fly in the face in terms of what is usually reported economic upheaval and along those lines. So I think that's pretty interesting.
And I'm very sorry to hear about your parents' story and what brought them here in United States, Sergy, because when someone was in jail during the Papatov regime, that means they suffer a lot, and they still living with a trauma of this moment. And we have so many Haitians during the Papatov regime, during the dictatorship regime of Duvalier. Many Haitians have been kidnapped, disappeared, been on jail, killed under the perception that they were communism. And Papa Doc, we have to specify the Papa Doc, it was a tactic for him to stay in power and to please the American diplomacy, to please American politician Washington, because for Washington and for Congress at that time, for them, Papa Doc was someone who was working for them. He was doing the right thing, and then because of that, they close their eyes and they look at away from all the dictatorship, the crimes, the corruption of the dictatorship regime, which has remained in power for 34 years in Haiti because of the support of American politicians.
speaking of corruption, I mean, that just seems to be a huge underlying issue with Haiti. It just keeps going on and on. Can you talk a little bit about the corruption, I guess, and the connection to Haitian corruption and I guess, the links to America, and how we're covering that, and are we doing a good job as journalists covering that?
Well, it's very difficult to cover corruption in Haiti because, first of all, we have to say that because of historical relationship between United States and Haiti, we have to admit that Haitians don't trust Americans. They don't trust American politicians. We grew up with that, and we still carry the stigmatism of the U.S. occupation, even 100 years later. And so, even an American journalist will go to Haiti and want to do the right thing, want to investigate. They might get to dead end because Haitian won't talk. Now, also there's also cultural language barrier, cultural clash. All this play a role in the challenges that a journalist that goes, American journalist or international journalist that go to Haiti and want to investigate corruption in Haiti. But we have also to make sure that we look at deeper into the relationship between government, Haitian government, and American politician, and particularly the diplomat, American diplomat. So that's a deeper conversation, but investigation is a key. Now, I want to bring as an example that something that can hurt a journalist without they don't even know. For instance, the case of journalist Calvin Hughes from Channel 10, a local television. In 2016, at the end of the term of Michel Martelly, Calvin Hughes has a story which is still online, and then I know that Dan can share the link with you and with your viewers. Calvin Hughes did a story on Haitian President Michel Martelly's final moment in office. For me, when I watched this story, I feel this was a PR. This was not a journalistic, unbiased, and balanced story. Because in this story, Calvin Hughes showed that how loved Michel Martelly was, but he undermined everything that Michel Martelly have done for during his 5 years term, which is for many months he has ruled the country by decree because he failed to hold legislative election. There's also and then not having election, and you have a parliament that was not replaced. Many municipalities elected officials were not replaced. So, which is the first violation of democracy. And an American journalist doing a presentation of how Michel Martelly was loved, but not presented the fact that he failed this country. And after long overdue election and allegation of fraud, Michel Martelly left his presidency with protests, and many people was still in poverty and more. We understand, and we have to be honest, that we know that in 5 years, a president cannot resolve the problem of Haiti. But if we're talking about coverage, we have to balance it. Because if Michel Martelly left the country with an uncertain future, and also there was allegation that a Michel Martelly government has spent a lot of money on in PR in the media, Haitian media in the diaspora, okay, and in Haiti, and also maybe in American media. And so he paid a lot of money. It is alleged that they spent a lot of money, Haitian taxpayers' money, to pay also what they call it, I forget the name now, lobbyists to please American politicians in Washington. So this is a type of a situation that was happening in 2016, when Calvin Hughes just came and then showed that, oh, Haitian will love Haitian president, and he's undermined the need and the demand of the Haitian people.
Can you talk a little bit about why you think that Haitians don't trust Americans? What is, I guess, perhaps you can talk a little bit about the historical roots or the current present day situations that are impacting. Why do you think there's a level of distrust?
It came from 1804, since our independence. It is reported, and I'm gonna quote Dr. Annette Gordon-Reed, professor of law and American history, that instead of welcoming and supporting the fledgling Republic of Haiti, the United States refused to recognize Haiti until 1862, after the southern states seceded from the Union. Despite this formal recognition, after the assassination of President Vivant Guillaume Sam in 1915, the United States occupied the island until 1934. End quote. This is from an article, an essay that Dr. Gordon-Reed wrote in New York Times, entitled "We Owe Haiti a Debt We Can't Repay." And you have many historians, many professors of history in the United States have documented the relationship, the broken relationship between United States and Haiti since 1804. I can also quote Dr. Anne Crawford Roberts from the Brown University, who wrote a history of United States policy toward Haiti. These are documented, and Dr. Crawford Roberts analyzed a major factor in the state of Haiti today is its relationship with the United States, both now and throughout history. And I quote her to say, over the past 200 years, the United States have played an important role in the economic and political activity of Haiti. And she will also later say, Haiti is the poorest nation in the Western Hemisphere and has economic and health statistics comparable to those in sub-Saharan Africa. So I like to quote a friend of mine who is a multi-talented Haitian artist. His name is Zeke. He liked to say, Haiti is too rich to be poor. Haiti is too rich to be poor. Unfortunately, Haiti has been the relationship between the United States and Haiti is more like a relationship of exploitation, a relationship of abusive relationship. And also, from my opinion, it is a relationship stand by white supremacy ideology and discrimination against the first Black Republic.
You know, a lot of people, it's interesting you talked about exploitation. I mean, I think that I'm not sure if people are aware of the resources that Haiti has. Haiti has been estimated to have $20 billion in gold mining. We have oil reserves that are reportedly larger than Venezuela. We have mineral deposits. We have resources that have been documented, particularly after the earthquake, that have been uncovered. And there's no reason why Haiti, I feel, should not be self-sustaining. There are times when you know, we have our own industries export. We had our own rice at a time. You know, we did not need to import rice, and Bill Clinton is on record for apologizing for his trade policies for affecting Haitian rice. He imported rice from Arkansas, where we had our own rice, and he publicly apologized for how his trade policies have affected that nation. So I think that a lot of people aren't aware of the resources that Haiti has, and the fact that a lot of our policies, American policies, has affected Haiti to this day. Do you have anything to add to that?
Actually, yes. I wanted to add to what you said about Bill Clinton apologizing about the deal that he signed with Jean-Bertrand Aristide in 1994 for him to send him back to Haiti to continue his term after the coup d'etat, the 1991 coup d'etat. It was a deal. it looks like it was a deal in the favor of Bill Clinton's state, because it is reported, and this is things that the journalists should investigate it, that Wiseland, this company that is in Arkansas, the owner is a good friend of Bill Clinton. And Wiseland is providing until now, even after Bill Clinton apologized, but still Haitian, Wiseland provide, it is reported, 90% of the rice sold in Haiti is from American rice. And Haiti, back in the days, Haiti used to be self-sufficient in producing rice. And because of Bill Clinton and Aristide, Jean-Bertrand Aristide, two former presidents, one from Haiti, one from the United States, now Haitian farmers are struggling, while Wiseland is creating 5,500 jobs in Arkansas. So here it is that a deal between two presidents, one that's in benefits of American president state and companies, friends company, and one that kill the agriculture of another country that needs. And even that Bill Clinton apologized in 2010, who have investigated? Does the American policy toward Haiti have changed? No. Wiseland still sending a lot of rice in Haiti, and then you have Julie Chaco, you have Julie Mega, you have Julie Bongo. They all are from Arkansas. And that's why it is important for the members of the Society of Professional Journalists and International Committee to understand it is not enough to say Haiti is the poorest country of the hemisphere. You have to ask yourself why. You have to investigate the why. You have to investigate the foreign policy between that United States have implemented for the past couple of years toward Haiti. Yes, Bill Clinton apologized, but his Wiseland still continue to put Haiti in poverty, and then we have also to mention that the rice that Wiseland is sending in Haiti, it is supported by American taxpayers' money, and by Haitian-American taxpayers' money living in the United States, by Haitian taxpayers' money living in the United States. So basically, we are, as a resident of the United States, an American citizen, we are contributing to this, creating, supporting the same policy that impoverished Haiti. And later on, what's going to happen? Because all these farmers in Haiti, they could no longer live out of agriculture. What they do? They take the boats. They travel to Bahamas. They travel to Venezuela, to Brazil, to Chile, and they walk miles, 100 miles to get to the border of Mexico. And then we're asking ourselves, why these people are leaving Haiti? The same foreign policy that American politicians have established, they are the one that putting Haiti in poverty. But this needs to be investigated, because I don't have the resources, I don't have the power, but these are documented. And if a journalist is doing a good job, should be able to find the link, the ring in this issue.
And I think you kind of answered our question, because, you know, a lot of people, you're in the United States, and you have to wonder, well, why should I care about Haiti? Well, how does this impact me? How does the Middle America heartland are being affected? And, you know, I sit in the great state of Louisiana, which, by the way, would not have been, the Louisiana Purchase would not have been purchased if it were not for the Haitian Revolution. Look it up for the history buffs out there. Right here, right nearby in our neck of the woods, Arkansas, and here it is. It's being affected by Haitian politics and the relationship between the two. By the way, Dr. Robert Buckman, our vice president, he said FDR, as Assistant Secretary of the Navy, wrote the Haitian Constitution in 1919. That's what our vice president wrote. Thank you, Dr. Buckman. But yes, a lot of people are asking, why should we care? How does it impact us? Why are these people here? And I think it's important for folks to realize that Haiti does not exist in a vacuum. And the policies that are sent out by the United States, and as you said, do you have anything else to add?
Can you repeat it, because we had the I couldn't hear you at some point.
I was saying basically that, basically Haitian immigration does not exist in a vacuum, and that the policies that are enacted by the United States come directly to our shores. This is why the Haitians are here and why they're seeking a better life, because of the policies that are affected.
Yes, and I mentioned that earlier. So these policies, like sending rice from Arkansas to Haiti, it is affecting our economy, and we have much more, because basically Haitian, United States never have a policy to improve our agriculture. The policy is a policy of consumers. So we become consumers. We consume everything that Haitian eat. It's from United States or from Dominican Republic, because no one never really invest and put money behind our agriculture system. Yes, now someone may say, well, Farah, this is not the job of United States. This is the job of the Haitian government. Yes, we agree with that. And that we will go back to how also a Haitian are represented by failed government, by corrupted government. This is by something that just Haitian have selected them. It is also a pattern to sustain and then promote in power those who are incompetent, those who are who will corrupted. So because of that, this policy have affected our economy, but the consequences of that now, once people cannot eat, they have to find something somewhere else, and they all come in United States. Now, definitely, it is become a burden, an immigration burden for American government, because what are they gonna do with all these people? The immigration system is already broken, and they cannot support all these people that are coming by thousand. And it's not only Haitian that coming by thousand in the United States. You have also the case of many people coming from South America, and this is a pattern. This is a pattern of foreign policies that, instead of helping to build countries in the Caribbean or countries in South America, instead they are promoting or supporting corrupted government and also incompetent government. So that's affect United States in terms of immigration. But you have another threat. It's the rise of crimes. The rise of crime. Now it become like it become so easy to kidnap someone. Haitian are or terrorized in their own country by a bunch of people, gangs, who don't even have access to weapons. But these people, they have big weapons. They have they kidnap Haitian people at their house, at their in their business, everywhere. But when you look at the crimes, the gangs that terrorize, because I don't call them gangs. For me, they are terrorists, because the way they use kidnapping to support their crimes, and to continue to feed and promote their groups, and they have also a wars between gangs, and then to recruit young people. And so Haitian can no longer live. They are terrorizing their own country. And because of that, you have also Haitian who educated Haitian who could and contribute and invest in the development of their whole country, they can no longer live there. And so you see different, it's not only those who are in poverty that live in the country, you see people from different social classes leaving Haiti and coming in the United States. Now, when they come here, many of them, they strive in the United States, they contribute to the development of the United States. But why they could not stay in their own country and develop Haiti? Because if you ask many Haitians, do you want to go back to your country? They will tell you yes. They will tell you yes, they want to go back to their country, but they are forced to live in the United States or on any other country because they feel like there's nothing for me over there. Now, beside bad governments, failed governance, and corruption and poverty, political instability, now you have a level of crime that has never been seen before. And it's like they compare us to Mexico, to Brazil, and this is not Haiti. Someone has created this situation. And who is investigating this? No one is investigating. I want to assume that no one is investigating. So far, we have not seen any report of any investigation about the crimes. Also, something that we should question, and I'm inviting your members to question themselves, to question this. How come you have about 20 American and Canadian missionaries that were kidnapped, and then compared to anyone, in opposite to any other people who have been kidnapped, these people were able to escape silently. No one was injured. And when you question the State Department, did they negotiate? What happened? How these missionaries, American missionaries, were able to escape? Zip it. The State Department doesn't say anything about that. But Haitians are kidnapped every day in Haiti, and no one was. They know it. Haitian knows Haiti, so that means Haitian cannot be escaped in their own country, but you have people who don't know the country were kidnapped and they were able to be escaped. No, a journalist should do an investigate that. So that means, once again, we are questioning many things that American diplomats, the American politicians are doing in Haiti. The State Department, how they always say the same speech: we stand with the people of Haiti. That's just in words, but in action, we Haitian, we see that they are among those who are complicit of our suffering, of our poverty, of the crimes, the rise of the crime in Haiti.
Speaking of investigations and contributing to the suffering, as I was preparing for the show, I was looking at some of the reports about the Haitian earthquake. I mean, a lot of Americans, I've heard some Americans feel like how much money, you can throw money at Haiti and you continuously throw money at Haiti. And where is it? What has happened to it? And there's questions as to where's all the money that was donated after the Haitian earthquake. There was a report that Time put out that said the Red Cross spent $500 million to build 6 homes in Haiti. There was another a report that was a governmental report, effective. So that's another question, is in terms of, where is the money going when it comes to Haiti, that is being donated in Haiti? What is it being used for? And I think it really underscores all the waste and corruption that goes on in that country. Any thoughts?
Correct. And I am commend Americans who have been questioning that, and I'm encourage them to continue to put pressure to their legislators, to the members of Congress, to put pressure to investigate that, to put pressure on the media to investigate that, because we also Haitian asking the same thing. If an American citizen will ask that, because that's their money, that American taxpayers' money who have giving to Haiti, and other countries, citizens of other countries have contributed to the reconstruction. But what happened to this money? And Reuters, for instance, reported that the interim Haiti Recovery Commission, if you remember, this commission that was led by the Haitian Prime Minister Jean-Max Belrive and by former President Bill Clinton, announced that they have more than $1.6 billion in project to rebuild Haiti, $1.6 billion to rebuild Haiti, and including a 200,000 million plan to create 50,000 new jobs in agriculture. If a journalist doesn't investigate that, that means you don't do your job. And 10 years later, Congress never called Bill Clinton to ask him question about this interim committee. No one never questioned Prime Minister Jean-Max Belrive, who actually, he is someone who's become high-profile speakers, going to different forum, a high-profile event, international event, talking about Haiti politics. And this interim commission was dismantled. No question asked. No one asked about the project, just because they announced the $50,000 new jobs in agriculture. That is a cause to investigate for that, and to ask Bill Clinton, what happened to this? Where are the jobs that was promised? This has nothing to see only with Haitian government. This is also to see with those non-Haitians who are part of this, and who have the responsibility to make sure that the funding given to this interim committee post-earthquake in Haiti must be accountable. They must answer questions. But it seems like everybody forgot. It seems like everybody talking about Haiti, the poorest country of the hemisphere, and then we move on. And then we're talking about, hey, a president that assassinated. We talk about the earthquake, and then we move on. No, and that's why I want to take a moment to thank John Kelly, the former vice president of WPBT, the former vice president of production of WPBT2, who in 2010, when he he proposed me to host Haitian Journal, he told me that he knows in few months, the mainstream media will stop following Haiti story. Haiti won't be in the headlines anymore. And he wanted to have a program that will continue to follow the story of Haiti. And I can tell you, and I think all the production of the production team of WPBT2 who have done a wonderful job, who have also trained me, guide me, mold me to be the host of Haitian Journal for 5 years, from 2011 to 2016. And still, the videos on the internet. You can type Haitian Journal WPBT2, and you see some of the of our program. And this is the type of programs and continue investigation that we need American journalists to continue to, and American media to continue to do, because resolving the issue in Haiti, supporting the fight of Haitians against corruption, against bad governance, against crime, against poverty, will also is also in the interest of the American people. And that's why Americans should care, because right now, as of now, Haiti, anyone can get into the country and place any weapons and target United States from Haiti. And we have seen that. We have seen, for instance, American mercenaries came in the country and was released by the ambassador, American ambassador. So we have seen so many things that any foreigner can get into the country with a private jet, with heavy weapons, and they do whatever they do. And we have seen that by killing the Haitian president, Jovenel Moise, that shows how fragile Haiti is. It is, and if American citizen or journalist doesn't demand accountability to their politicians, and then to give the requirement, the resources, the requirement support that Haitian needs. And I'm not talking about support just to give support, just to make a statement, a PR, say that, well, we have done this, we have given that. But they need to follow the story and to keep these people accountable, because their action put us in a very fragile state. And earlier I mentioned about corruption and the support of incompetent and bad governance, and also corrupted leaders in Haiti. We have seen that it has a pattern, and I mentioned what happened during the Duvalier dictatorship. But he has been a continuation of American diplomacy, diplomat being very good friend with co-opted politician, and even with quote unquote supposedly Haitian businessmen, very powerful Haitian businessmen, but in fact they're not different from Al Capone in New York, because at the end of the day they control everything. They control the port, they control our justice system, they control the legislative, and they control the executive. And is it something that it is something known? They talk about it is in the news in Haiti. People know about that. That means American diplomat knows about that too. But what they have done with that, they have contributed to help FBI do a deep investigation, and so finally we can bring these people who have corruption rings from Haiti to the Caribbean, to the Caribbean region, and even in Haiti, to bring them to justice. At least these people, you have to cut the head if you want solution. And what we see in Haiti, just like, okay, well, from time to time, the Haitian police arrest a gang or kill a gang, but they're not the one that someone is giving them the weapon. There's a heavy guns traffickers in Haiti, and these guns are where they are. But Haiti doesn't they build the guns where they are. It's two ways they can get to Haiti: either by boat from United States or from another country, either by private jet, private plane going to Haiti, or either by from the Dominican Republic. And United States also, the Guard Corps have control of our sea. So if there's a boat passing and they get into Haiti, and this gun get into Haiti, is under the watch of United States.
And by the way, keeping leaders accountable is part of our SPJ Code of Ethics. So that's what it's definitely something that we should be doing. Now, the more the reporters cover corruption and gun activity, it underscores a negative view of Haiti. What can be reported now about Haiti society that does not focus on crime and corruption?
It is difficult to answer this question, because it seems like that's the priorities now. That's the priorities. That's what killed the spirit of Haitian. That's what the roots of the issues. And this is a pattern that we see also in Latin America, the roots of migration to the US. And you have many of them. You have economy, you have corruption, bad government, and bad policy. So these are deep into the society. And I think that we need to see in the coverage, it is important that to see the the Haitian perspective, to bring the Haitian perspective, give a voice to Haitian people. And this is something that you don't have to do necessarily in Haiti. You can do it here too. Local media plays a big role on the perception that their viewers have of a community like the Haitian community. If everything that you report in the news, in local news, is, oh, there's 356 Haitian going to the shores of Kilogo. Oh, well, there's a coup in Haiti, and Haitian crimes. If every time this is what you report, definitely the perception is, oh, these people, they are failure, or these people, there's nothing good from them. That affects us. That affects the diaspora. That affects also how people see us. And I think that in United States, local media who have a very large Haitian population, like here in South Florida, I think they need to do a better job to promote cultural diversity and give a voice to local immigrant, a Black and white immigrant group. And I may be wrong, but I take the time to observe the news. I don't watch the news just to watch, but I observe what's going on. And for instance, you will see that the great festival or something major, a job creation, for instance, you will see that they are, this type of news target certain cities. And when talking about poverty, crimes, they talk at a different group, a different city. And you can see the racial disparity too, inequality in this news coverage, even locally. And we barely see great news in the local coverage, local media, about Haitian doing great things. We have Compa Festival, for instance, the biggest Haitian entertainment event going on for 22 years in Miami. They barely mention about Compa Festival. Compa Festival, where you have thousands of Haitians. Unfortunately, we don't have numbers about that, but you have thousands of Haitians every year coming from around the world, coming in Florida, promoting Haitian culture, Haitian compa, Haitian music. But guess what? Are we doing highlights? No, but guess what? The following week, you have Best of the Best Festival, which is a Jamaican festival. He will be a highlight. You have another festival, Cayocho. He will be in the highlight in the local community, in the local media. Why Compa Festival is not in the highlight?
Good question. So what solutions would you offer us in terms of journalism, in terms of doing our jobs better? Folks that I have to, I guess, talk to their assignment editors, because they may have individual journalists who may want to cover something or see a particular story that kind of strikes their fancy and they want to cover. What would you say to journalists out there? What solutions would you say to offer to kind of change that perception for Haiti?
First of all, I think the news editor and the director of the newsroom needs to do more effort to raise the voice of a Black and brown immigrant. In the United States, we are all Black, right? Whatever color, whatever country we are from, we are all immigrants. But we see there's some immigrants, they are promoted more and then feature more in the news than other immigrants. So the local media needs, and also the big network need to do more effort to raise voice of Black and brown immigrants in their community, within their community, and also nationally. Also, I would suggest that to promote cultural diversity in the newsroom, look at your journalists. How many you are in a community, for instance, South Florida is a very diverse community. How many Haitian reporters do you have? Or how many Haitian descent reporters do you have? How many Caribbean descent reporters that you have who can connect with the local community. As a matter of fact, I want to mention a conversation that I have with Frances Wong, who is of Vietnamese descent and was with CBS4 in Miami. Now she's with she went to work for ABC in another state. And we had that conversation that how we are not represented in the newsroom. And the story that we see on the news are not a reflection of our community, of our local community. So they need to do more effort to do that. They also need to have in their staff Creole speakers. It might be a journalist or it might be an entrepreneur, because that will help you to communicate with the local community. And if you're covering, or when you're covering news related to Haiti or something happening to Haiti, this staffer who speak Creole will be able to reach out to the local community and get their perspective. And then I want to thank again WPBT2, because you and I, Sergy, that's what we were doing for WPBT2. And before I became the host of Haitian Journal, I was a volunteer contributor for Haitian Journal for WPBT2. And every time that they're trying to reach out to someone in the Haitian community, they call me, and then I make phone calls for them. And I was able to filter people, to screen them and their guests, and to bring them in the program. So this is something that they need to continue to do. Also, for the media, they need to do outreach to the local community, develop relationship to local community to increase representation and have different perspective. For instance, in South Florida, we have many Haitian-American elected officials. I barely see them in the news. And also to invest more in investigation research, because again, you cannot just bring the issue from a very light, how to say that in English, a very superficial way. You have to go deeper to the issue and ask questions that people want to know, and that also help to resolve the issues, and then to also help to bring justice when justice is justice needed. And also, last but not least, I would say that we need more media, local media, to tell our stories, as Black and brown immigrants, so they can understand. It's not about promoting us, promoting like, oh yeah, we have good Asian food, griot, we have Haiti 1804. No, we need to address issues that are relevant now. We need to address issues that will bring our voice to local elected officials, state officials, and also to Washington. They need the local media and international reporters need to raise our voice so they can understand what we need. How come an American diplomat who just spent few weeks in class to learn Creole and to learn about my history will tell what I want for my country? No, Americans cannot tell Asians what they want for their country. So they need to raise the voice of our community, identify new leaders, those who are really doing the groundwork, those who are really investing the time in promoting the voice of their people and finding solution. And then at this point, they will also help to change the perception that people have about Haitians, like we are a failed state. It's not true. We're not a failed state. We are just like Americans, people who believe in our history, our culture, our human being, and we have rights, and we want to live peacefully in our country. And there's many Haitians who's ready for that. But did they give us the opportunity to do so? Not that much. And this is the job of a journalist, to make sure that they filter those interviews and then they go deeper to the story so they can help to bring justice. They can help to find solution, just not say something just to say, oh, well, we talk about Haiti and then two days later, they forget about us.
Well, thank you, Farah. I have one last question. It's a tradition on these talks that we ask of our guests. What does press freedom mean to you?
Press freedom, it means human rights. It means betterment. It means peace. Because when the press is free to report what it needs to be reported and to report, to give a voice to the people, we can find solution. And we need the press. And then that's unfortunate that my Haitian media, my Haitian press cannot do that freely. And I admire the work that you do at SPJ. I admire the work of so many journalists, and I want also to acknowledge, if you allow me to thank Tim Paget. He's the editor for Miami NPR radio and WLRN. Tim Paget has been giving a voice to Haitians, and I've covered many stories about Haiti in a very deep way. I also want to acknowledge the work of the Center for Economic of Policy Research, Jake Johnston, for doing a wonderful job bringing the light to so many uncovered story about Haiti, and this is the people that reflect exactly what Haitian, press freedom is about.
I want to thank you, Farah, again for an amazing discussion. We could have easily gone another hour. This is a very exciting program coming up about the threats journalists in Myanmar face every day. The guest will be documentary director Ong Nang So. His new film, Walking Through the Darkness, focuses on 5 journalists as they cover events from the February 2021 overthrow of civilian rule to mass protests and clashes with opposition forces. The international community is working with the director to provide a limited opportunity to screen the film before the IC talk with him. Be sure to sign up for the IC newsletter to get your notice when the program date is set. Plus, there will be a special session just for SPJ members in the international community. We are still working on the date, but it will be soon. So if you are not an SPJ member, this is the perfect time to sign up. Dan has just posted the URL to the SPJ membership page. You can get more information about all upcoming programs by subscribing to the International Community Weekly Newsletter. Dan is putting in the URL for our webpage, which includes a subscription form. Dan has also included a link to the latest newsletter for your reading enjoyment. You will note how nice and short it is. If you have ideas for future programs, you can always reach the international community by email. And again, Dan has posted that window. You can also contact us through the SPJ main website, where you can also join the society. Again, many thanks to you, Farah, for joining us this evening, and many thanks as well to you, our audience. Be careful and stay well. Bye, Farah.
Thank you very much, Sergy. Thank you, Sergy. Thank you to Dan. Thank you to SPJ. You are a big ally for the Haitian people. And on behalf of Haitian, my people, I thank you guys for putting this together and for giving a voice to us.
Thank you, Farah.